Welcome to the Up in Your Family Business podcast, where we dive into the heart of family business with intimate interviews, expert insights, inspirational stories, valuable resources, and practical tips to help grow your family business. Our guest for today's Up in Your Family Business podcast is Andrew Montieth, third generation owner of Georgetown Market, a natural health food store located in northwest central Indianapolis. Is that right? Is that a good description? Northwest Central?
I would call it, yeah.
Northwest Central, okay. Nestled between downtown Indy and Eagle Creek, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. I'm actually very much looking forward to this conversation. This will be a lot of fun. I'm real big into community and health and wellness, and obviously you're a client of ours as well, so that's exciting too. Mm-hmm. So looking forward to this. Okay, so today's topic for this episode is sustaining community wellness, a journey with Georgetown Market's third generation owner. Did I mention your third generation?
I think so.
I think I did.
Yep.
Should we mention it again?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In this episode, we have the privilege of listening to Andrew share elements of the 50-year history of Georgetown Market, technically 51 this year, correct? Mm-hmm. Georgetown Market, a beacon of health and wellness since 1973, while exploring the rich heritage, values, and future of this family-owned establishment. So, congratulations on your milestone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know that's your golden anniversary.
Yep.
That's pretty exciting.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, 50 years. When is the official date? Is it in April?
It's actually March 1st.
Oh, it's March 1st.
March 1st would have been 51 years since the doors first opened.
It feels like it was just yesterday. You guys were preparing for your fall celebration. Mm-hmm. We're almost there again. It's really scary, isn't it?
Yep.
It's really scary. Cool. All right. Well, let's jump right in. Let's jump right in. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, first question for you, Andrew. How has Georgetown Market evolved over 3 generations while staying true to its mission of promoting health and wellness in the Indianapolis community?
I think I really like that question. Like when you said it to me initially, like how have we evolved? I think in a lot of ways we haven't evolved, and that's kind of the key to success in some things. And obviously times changed over 50 years. But things that haven't changed, we've been on the same side of town for 50 years, moved down the street like a mile and a half. Mm-hmm. And as far as locations, like it's still in the same space, same family.
Still Georgetown Road? Still
on Georgetown Road. We have a lot of long-term employees, things like that. The things that have involved is just, how business operates. Located to a new updated building, expanded some selections, like things like that. But the evolution just kind of gradually happens over time.
So this was your obviously paternal grandfather that started this business?
Yes.
Is that correct? Mm-hmm. How long was he a part of the business?
He was, it was actually started by my dad and my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
I would let him tell the whole story, but he had the idea based off, there's another member of the family that actually had a store, and my dad spent some summers working there. Had the idea when he was in between summers at Purdue. Presented the idea to his dad, and they kind of just like ran with it together. But my grandpa spent the first 6 years with my grandma. They kind of like got things going, got things running, and then my dad like came on board full time.
So it was a family business right from the start?
Right from the start.
That's really exciting.
Yep.
That's really, really cool. Tell us a little bit about your journey, your specific experience with Georgetown Market. When did you start working there? What was your age? Did you naturally, no pun intended on the natural, right? Did you naturally become a part of the business because your dad and grandpa were doing it? Did you have excitement and interest at an early age? Just tell us a little bit about how you started in the business and what roles and responsibilities you've had over the years.
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity that I had was it was there. And I always really looked up to my dad and my grandparents. It was fun being able to go in as a little kid, and people knew me. A lot of the customers were like, we're good friends also.
Little Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, and I still get that to this day. Every once in a while I'll meet somebody and be like, I remember, and their hand goes down to the ground.
So you still have customers that are still coming in that have been around for decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some that have been shopping for older than I am. But I grew up in the business, and I always liked it. And in fact, I remember my dad saved a report of, I think it was first or second grade or something, is what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I want to go work in the family business.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Turns out I was probably one of those kids that was actually right.
How old were you then when that story, like when you started thinking like those along those lines?
I mean, basically since like as a kid, I probably would have been 8-10 years old at the time, something like that. But it always sounded like a dream. It sounded fun. I had a lot of good experiences just kind of like being there. Started working there in the summers in high school because it was easy. Easy to get a job, I should say, not easy work. And ironically enough, I've never had another job. I've never interviewed for another job. It's just been one place my entire life.
You're one of those people that doesn't have a resume, right?
I don't. I started putting together a resume at some point, and I was glad that I didn't have to.
But you went to Purdue, correct?
I went to Purdue.
What did you go to Purdue for?
I graduated high school in 1999. Started at Purdue, and I started in the School of Management in Cranert. Spent a couple years. And I remember I was having a discussion with one of my professors, and they were talking about like, what do you want to do after school? And I was like, I don't really know, and I was just trying to find myself at that time. And he told me something. I don't remember like specifically how, but the message that I got was like the education that they were trying to give you there was designed to like start you in corporate. So not necessarily teach you everything, because the corporations they wanted people coming out that were moldable, that they could kind of like mold into the types of business people that they wanted to be, and that just felt really limited to me. So I ended up transferring out into the School of Consumer and Family Sciences.
I didn't know that existed.
I didn't know that existed either.
What is that again?
The School of Consumer and Family Sciences.
Wow, that's wild.
And ironically enough, Purdue has a fashion program, so I was in the same school with fashion majors. And my degree was ultimately in retail management. So I actually had more specific classes as far as retail. They had a family business class that I took, and it was much more relevant to me.
So in the family business, a lot of times it's encouraged. It's not required, but a lot of second, next generation owners will sometimes they'll be a part of the business, or maybe not, but most of the time they are, and then they leave, whether it's school. But a lot of them go into and they go work for someone else. In fact, you'll read about previous generations almost like saying, "I want you to go out and gain some experience in the market." Again, no pun intended. Right. and then come back with what you learned. So obviously you didn't do that because you didn't take time to create a resume, so you couldn't get a job. But think about. I know this is might be difficult for you to recall because it's several years ago. But think about what your views were and what Georgetown Market and the business meant for you before you went to college. And I know you probably worked there throughout the summers and everything, but what changed for you? What did you have any different perspectives or different understandings or any different viewpoints that you were able to bring back to the business that you got from going to college?
I don't remember.
And I was afraid you might say that.
I'm sure that I did. I think like one of the biggest things that I learned in college is just more or less like analytical skills.
Okay.
Assessing the situation, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, when I was working there, I'd price things and put it on the shelf, and not really thinking about like what it actually makes a business tick.
Mm-hmm.
And coming out, I took a job. My first job at the store was the deli manager, and the department in itself was not in the greatest of shape. And And fortunately, I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
This is post-college?
This is post-college, right after college. So I came in and I was like really motivated, like you graduate from college and you're motivated, you're going to start your career, you're going to do all these kind of things. And I think that really helped me in a lot of different ways. But I was also like very naive and I didn't know like what it meant, because I didn't have like that specific like management experience. And so I kind of was thrown into the deep end in a lot of ways. And it was a great way to kind of grow up and learn, and that step between like just being the kid that's there working in the family business to like having an effect on things.
Have you worked in every department within Georgetown Market, or not necessarily? I know you have some favorite ones you had, but before you started becoming more involved in the operations and the day-to-day, more on that general manager ownership side, did you actually experience everything about the business or just components of it? Pretty much.
The one department that I haven't spent nearly as much time like is the supplements. We call it the natural living section. And that was very intentional in a lot of ways because that was the expertise that my dad had. So
makes sense.
That's what he would focus on. And I kind of took the journey of like picking up the pieces and finding the other things that needed attention. And so being in the deli, that was the first job. I did that for 4 years. Transitioned over into the grocery department, kind of took over like frozen refridge, produce, that kind of stuff. Developed some systems, kind of help with some like technology and advancements. I guess that's part of the evolution. And just worked up from there. Grocery manager, assistant manager.
That's great. Do you miss being on the floor, or do you actually like being more on the ownership operational side?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I miss being on the floor. I miss being intimately involved, like in the like the nitty gritty day to day. I feel like I was like really good at it, and it was. I have a good skill set to be able to like do those kind of things. And the evolution for me is just more or less like management and running a business. And it's easy, I'm sure, as you know yourself, to you get focused on like, what's the future look like? What are, these projects, guiding people, and it's easy to kind of miss out on the little things. And even now I find that I won't say like out of touch, but things that I was used to doing like aren't necessarily like relevant because the technology is not the same. And I find myself thinking like, well, back in my day, and so I'm now that guy.
Back in your day. That's good. Yeah, I think that's the hard part, right? Is like the roles and responsibilities do change. I mean, you can't be an owner. You can't have those heavy burdens, and then be on the floor doing what you used to do. You have to separate, and then you have to have a good team that speaks into it and it shares with you what's going on, so you can still see what's going on. You just can't. You're just not down literally on the floor experiencing it directly.
Right.
That must be hard. One of the things you shared with me is you said that your dad has a great story. Your dad, Rick, has a great story about the origin and the evolution of the business and where it is today. Would you mind sharing that story with us?
Sure, yeah. I may not get all the details right.
That's all right. It's not your story. It's secondhand, so do the best you can, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was like maybe 71, 72 in the summers. I guess it would be like his aunt, Sue, had a store on the east side. It was a little health food store, and he helped do that. And that was kind of like what spurred on the idea that I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast. So like getting it going, my grandfather had he had just retired from Allison Transmission.
Oh, okay.
And my dad and my grandma kind of got things like started and opened like officially, and as he was like retiring, and I think he came on like shortly after a couple months or something like that. And then Dad finished college and then went to go work for a bank for 5 or 6 years before coming back.
Oh.
And he tells me stories about, they would look at the checking account and there'd be like $40-$50 in there or something, and they're like placing orders. Of course, this is the 70s. $50 goes a lot longer than it does now, but that's still pretty tight.
It's still pretty tight. Yeah.
And they would like place an order for product like based on like what was in the checking account, and so like literally getting down to the pennies and things like that. But ultimately, like what happened was my grandpa had a lot to do with like the origins and the starting of the business. Kind of got things going, and he was in his 60s, I believe, when it started. And
so this was really his second career.
It was very much a second career. It was much more of like a passion and an interest, and that he did, and he ended up getting, I don't know if it like actual degrees, but really looking into homeopathy and things like that. And it was, this is all stuff that, by this time he was in his 70s, like that he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna learn about this. So, I look at my experience that I have like working with my dad now, and can relate to like the experience that he had working with his dad. And it's different in a lot of ways. But you look up to your parents in so many different ways. And obviously my grandpa was the leader of the store for such a long time. And then as my dad kind of transitioned, purchased land, built the building that we're in now in the mid 90s. My grandpa passed away in March of 1998. And
the anniversary month. Yeah, it's tough.
It was, yeah. And we actually like opened up the store in the location that we're at now in November of 1997. So shortly afterwards.
Yeah, I'm thinking he would have actually passed away right at your 25-year anniversary. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe. Like it's that's only half the history, and then the other half is where we are now.
Yeah. So your grandfather had a passion for health and wellness. Your dad obviously does. Do you share that same passion?
For sure,
to the extent that they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess like taken it in different directions. My grandpa liked homeopathy, vitamins. Some of the stories that I've heard or that he's had with people that he's helped and everything is remarkable. My dad's much the same, so he's educated himself in a lot of different ways. Really been able to kind of like find some of the more like niche things. So he's studied a lot about like alternative cancer treatments, and worked with people on their journey.
Your dad believes, and I think a lot of people are starting to learn this. There's more coming out that there is a lot of self-healing natural techniques if you have cancer and other ailments and things like that. So,
yeah, modern medicine is not the only solution.
Right.
Our bodies have evolved over, tens of thousands of years to to work with nature.
Yeah.
And completely abandoning that philosophy and just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so a lot of what he's known as people that have done research and either Chinese medicine or all sorts of like different techniques and kind of like putting things together and finding good ways. And so that's really like where he is now, is really understanding like some of the more niche things. It's much more of an interest for him as opposed to like running a business.
So your dad is still part of the business today? Okay.
Yep.
How was in his your dad, I know your dad likes to travel, and obviously he's not as immersed in the business as he was 20 years ago, or even probably 5 years ago. So what role does he play today, and how did that transition? How was the passing of the baton, if you will, from him full time, and then passing on to you, where you took over more day to day?
So the transition, definitely happened like slowly over time.
Okay.
When I started back in 2003, even at that time, like he was less involved in the day to day.
Okay.
He primarily like would come in the evenings, like 6 days a week. He come in at maybe like 2 p.m. and stay for the evening. And I just kind of progressively got later, and that's still pretty much what he's doing to this day also.
So he's working after hours, after the store closes even?
Just in the evening, sometimes after hours.
Okay.
But during the day, he would be at home, and he would be either doing research or working on something, and just not necessarily like there in the midst of everything.
And that's probably a difference between the two of you, correct? You're there different. You don't follow that same schedule.
I don't. I like being there in the mornings. But that's also kind of like, what naturally happened. I mean, like I'm a father, and with family and that kind of thing. Like you get used to Monday through Friday on the day job, and you kind of adjust your schedule that way. But it also worked for the needs of the business. I was there in the morning. My brother works there as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so we would kind of jointly do that kind of stuff over time. And eventually it just came time where I think he was not ready to retire, but ready to be able to like step away. And it was time to like, find an actual, like a physical transition, like in ownership.
Do we, is there a fourth generation coming up the line?
Maybe, we'll see.
Okay. You have a daughter and a son?
I have a daughter and a son. My daughter works there currently. She works in the juice bar a couple days a week.
Oh, okay, very cool.
She's doing.
Is she 16?
She is. She's 18.
Oh, she's 18.
You're about to be 19.
Okay, and your son is?
My son is 17.
Oh, 17. Okay.
About to be 18.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So are you? So your daughter's a part of it now. There's no guarantee. Has either of them expressed interest? Like it seemed like, your grandfather and dad started it, passed on that passion and love onto you. What does that look like today? What's the likelihood that you're going to have a fourth generation?
I try not to think about it.
Okay,
it's not the same. I did. I was talking about how I wanted to do that, but they've expressed no sort of interest in that, and
you don't want to push it.
I'm not going to push it. You also mentioned earlier, like a lot of times people will go out and do something for a while and then they come back in the family business. And there's a big part of me that wishes that I had done that.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I think that would have been a great experience, but that wasn't my journey. So I can't go back and change that now, and can't really leave at this point either. So,
right.
But if that happened with one of my kids, like absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't stop that in any way, but I'm also not trying to like push them towards it. I mean, everybody has a personality, and owning a business, and especially being in retail or even just natural foods, like that kind of all has to go together, or it's not going to work.
Okay. So it might be a little premature to line up a podcast interview 5 years from now with one of your kids, right?
Probably.
Yeah. Probably a little premature. Okay. All right. We'll wait on that one. All right. One of the things I like to touch on would be just the family traditions and the values. Values is a really big word. I mean, we all have values and principles and beliefs, but values is synonymous with family businesses. In fact, a lot of the reasons why people will shop somewhere. Yes, you want quality products. Yes, you want good service, and Georgetown Market has that. But the values matter, that there's a natural draw or attraction to people, to family businesses because of who they are, right? What they believe, how they run their business, things like that. So question for you is, what are Georgetown, and I'd be curious to know whether this has changed. It sounded like in the beginning you said much hasn't changed, which I think is really good, right? But would love to hear, what are some of those core values that your grandfather and your dad established and that have guided Georgetown Market over the years? And I want to make sure, so this would be like in your day-to-day operations. So where did your core values start? What were those, or what are they? And how do you incorporate those in your culture, your decision-making, your relationships, just your day-to-day activities?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something that hasn't really changed over the years. I mean, the biggest values are just honesty, integrity, relationships. That leads to customer service, face-to-face relationships, quality products. We're not like snake oil salesmen, or we're not trying to get one over on people to make a buck. It's just, I guess, in its core, just good, honest, everyday hard work, and taking care of people. And much like any small business, you have to be able to provide something to your customers. And you're not going to have the lowest prices. I mean, if you do, it's going to come at a sacrifice. The values are going to be based around like a good quality, like healthy product, whether that's, packaged goods or meats or that kind of stuff. And ultimately, like, people are going to shop with you or come back or want to work with you if they see that kind of stuff. And so a lot of our customer base is based on that, like knowing that they have questions, they have needs, they want to talk to people. And like that's where it comes from.
At Georgetown Market, you guys have a wide range of age of employees and, of course, experience. I mean, every business would love to say that every employee they have has been there for 30 years. It just isn't the case, right? So obviously you guys have college students, you have part-time employees, but you have a lot of employees that have been there a long time. My guess is it's been a little easier for those ones that have been there a long time to carry those values down the line. How does Georgetown Market, how do you guys share and emphasize and pass along your values onto new employees? How do you make sure that not just the owners and the managers, but the people on the front lines are living out those values and living out those beliefs and principles? How do you guys accomplish that at Georgetown Market?
You're asking that, and I don't know that there's like specific like targeted things that we do.
Okay.
But, I don't have like a new hire program.
It's not part of your onboarding process.
We have like this is Georgetown Market, and this is what we believe, kind of thing, or whatever. But I think more than anything, it just comes from like you said, we have a bunch of people that have been there for quite a long time, and so like that very much is part of the culture.
Living it out by example.
Like honest integrity. We take care of our employees. We like pay them, and we will find do everything that we can for them, like help them through tough times, that kind of stuff. And that is translated into the people that have like been there for a while. Like they look after people to like take care of them. And those are also the people that are going to stick around in your business. If somebody just wants to make a lot of money, first of all, don't go into retail. But like if somebody just wants to get money, or, they're trying to like scam to get ahead or things like that, it just doesn't work. Like we've had people that are primarily motivated by those kind of things, and they figure out really quickly it's not the place for them because it's not our values.
Have you ever had people work for you that were customers?
Absolutely. That happens quite a lot.
Really? That's pretty neat.
People that were customers turned employees. And some people like would stick around for quite a while. There's a guy that works for us in grocery that was just telling me the other day, he used to come in the morning with his mom or when he was younger, and his mom would bring him in, and he's like, I grew up shopping here, and he always looked at this place as like, it's like the gourmet place, and, and now he works there, I guess like it says that, the sense that the customers get is that it's also a good place to work. And that means a hell of a lot to me.
I like it. I thought I told you couldn't swear on this podcast. Hell was right there on the line, Andrew.
That's as much as I'm going to push it.
We'll let that one go. We'll let that one go. No S word is no other words. Just that's it. So you can say that word on the podcast. That's okay. One of the things that Georgetown Market prides itself on is, in addition to the way it conducts business, is, let me back up. One of the things, there are two things that I've noticed in my experience with any business, particularly on the retail side, is how knowledgeable the people are. Like, can you see the workers living out the brand, right? And then also, and along those same lines, enthusiasm, passion. Like I love when I go into a store and you can just tell that people love working there, but you also want people that are knowledgeable. So how do you balance that out? How do you balance that when you're bringing someone on board to work in a certain department? How do you guys go about? And again, maybe you don't have a document, like I might put you on the spot in that last question, but how do you ensure that the people that work for you are knowledgeable, that can actually educate? Because I know it's a big part, and we'll get into that here, I think, in a minute, is the educational side of Georgetown Market is really, really important. You like to have people on the front lines that know what they're talking about. But you also want people who love the brand, love customer service, and that's hard. We live in a day and age right now where it's hard to find good people, let alone people that have a smile on their face. So how do you guys go about that beautiful balance of being able to serve the customer because you can answer questions, but also having people on the front lines that want to be there, that enjoy being there, and that shines in their communications with the customers?
The best answer that I can give is, like, again, it's about the culture. So much of what we do, being on the front lines, dealing with people, the staff, particularly like with supplements and everything, people will come in with all sorts of, ailments or things that their doctors have told them, and they don't know what to do. And so in a lot of ways, like the people that we're hiring and that will stick around, like, they just have that sense of themselves that wants to help people. And again, it's not we have like training programs and things like that, but like, you can only train so much. I mean, you can't train people to care about other people. Like, that either happens or it doesn't. And the customers that are longtime customers that are coming in, the employees that stick around so long, like, I guess that's one of the things that bonds everybody together is, like, we care.
That's awesome. I love that. I'd like to jump into just how you guys actually get some of your products and whatnot. You guys do a lot of sourcing locally, right? So how do you balance? How do you have that balance? Obviously, there are a lot of products you have on the shelf that are not sourced locally, but you do have some products. Is that a challenge? Is that an easy thing to balance? How do you guys go about doing that?
It's a very difficult thing to balance. I mean, if it made sense business wise, we'd have everything locally.
Local, organic, things like that.
Absolutely.
But it's hard.
It is hard. Vendor relations and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, let's face it, a lot of people that are small, that are locally producing things, like, they have a hard time sustaining their own business, and so they kind of like come and go also. I mean, we'll have brands that are nationwide. I mean, like the Amy's frozen dinners, we've had those in like the early 90s, and as like that brand grew, like eventually, like, they outgrow our space, and so so it may not even necessarily be like specifically local brands. It'll be like up and coming brands as well, that might be like nationwide, but they have a reason for it, and they're looking for people to help them become established, and so that becomes a part of it too.
I think you guys at one point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point I think you guys did have pretty much all organic produce. Is that correct? At one point, or close?
Yes. Now typically, like, throughout the year, it's going to be 100% organic produce.
Okay.
We've got a relationship with an Amish farming community.
Oh, that's awesome.
That we get a lot of stuff throughout the summer. They are not certified organic, so I can't call it organic. However, they do grow things to those standards, and oftentimes above. So I cannot say that it's 100% organic because we have those kind of things. But I mean, that market's also getting like more and more difficult to be able to sustain, especially like price wise.
Yeah. So as far as, are you talking about in terms of, it might be both price wise in terms of passing that price on to the consumer, they can't afford it, or also being able to purchase that, sell it, and make a profit? a little bit of everything.
Both,
right?
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of things that you can get organic, like at a lot of different places now, like strawberries or something like that. The prices that we're paying and that what we need to sell it for to like actually make a profit, we might be 2 times as much as like the next person, and so that becomes like a struggle. Like, how do you handle that kind of stuff? The best thing to do is to get local strawberries that are coming out fresh in the strawberry season, and that lasts for about 2 weeks, and that's it.
I know we're coming up close to the blueberry season, right? Isn't that coming up? Are we in that now, or we're coming close?
No, that'll be like
May,
July.
Oh, that's also July or August. Okay. See, I love blueberries. I should know more about blueberries. What are some of the just out of curiosity? What are some of the products that you guys can't offer organically just as a like now or recently because of price increases?
Right now, I think about the only thing that we're like looking at making exceptions on are like seedless grapes or seeded grapes.
Seeded grapes,
And organic, we'd have to sell them for $15-$16 a pound. I mean,
wow,
who's gonna buy that? So the options, like more and more, I guess we're facing the choice of like, do we have something because it's available, or do we not because we're not willing to like adjust our standards? And I guess that goes into like more of the future conversation, like how do we handle those kind of things, because it is very real at this moment in time.
I'm not sure I'd pay $4 a pound for seeded grapes, seedless grapes maybe, but not seeded grapes.
Right.
I don't know how people do that stuff. All right. So beyond the products that you sell, how do you engage with the local community? How do you guys communicate health and wellness, not just to the people that come through the doors, but I know you guys have a podcast. It's a podcast, right?
We do. We have a podcast also.
Tell us a little bit about how you communicate with the local community, how you engage with the local community just beyond just coming into the store.
I mean, it happens over time. So we have a lot of like long-standing relationships, either with local vendors or things like that, and things kind of change over time as well. Mm-hmm. We do 2 events a year.
2 events, okay.
What used to be in the spring, now it's more like the summer. It's a like community day event, and it's really the purpose of it is to kind of give exposure to some of the like local vendors that we have, or different community organizations doing things like to the customers, like bringing everything together, and that's really like the focus of it.
Is it like a farmer's market on site or kind of like that? Or?
No, I mean, that's hard. I mean, you're looking at like food licenses and things like that, but we'll have community organizations, and it could be, for donations or, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of names, and that's I left my notes at home. So,
it's right there with all your onboarding documents, right? Is that right there?
Right, exactly. It just happens. But I mean, that one that's the one event. The other one is the like customer appreciation, the anniversary event that we do in November, and that one's like very much based on like, hey, let's just like do what we can for the customers.
That makes sense. So in this past November, you combined the customer appreciation with the celebration every 50 years. Is that how you guys? Is that how you did it?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How was that, by the way? Was that everything you'd hoped? I know was it everything you hoped it would be?
What I mean is a lifelong dream come true, Todd.
Did it go as well as you'd hoped?
It really, really did. There were like several things, I guess, that like made it different. Obviously, because it's 50, kind of, we're able to get a hold of and get some quotes or statements from some like longtime customers or even like former employees that had been there for like a really, really long time. I saw it, myself personally, more as like a tribute to my family, to what my dad and my grandparents built. Mm-hmm. So we did something like a little special for him. Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of that got translated over into the website that we just did. So we're putting the timeline on there and everything.
Yep. Are you plugging your website? We'll get to that. Georgetownmarket.com. Anyway, go ahead. So that's good. So you guys do. So tell me. So you guys do. You guys have a podcast. You interview people. You have guest speakers, right? Mm-hmm. Your dad, over the years, has shared a lot of his knowledge through video as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
So how does education work for Georgetown Market? What do you guys do?
The other big part that has been a part of our past was doing classes. Mm-hmm. We've got a nice area upstairs, and we'd have guests come, and it could be like an education like expert from like a supplement brand, and they would come to, like, obviously they're trying to like push their products, but there's also an educational value in it. Our employees have done some classes too, kind of put together some things that like they have a particular interest in. Still trying to like really get those things going again, and how all that's going to work. But that's been a big part of it. So community classes, that's not something that you're going to get at like many of the other stores. That's something that separates it and really enforces the idea of like education and customer service. Like it is more than just like you come in, you buy a bottle of vitamin C and leave. We are doing a farmer's market, the Pike Farmer's Market, which is like right up the street, right up Lafayette Road.
Very cool.
It's been going for a couple years, like sponsoring that. So, getting to like meet the other vendors there, and seeing a lot of our own customers that are going there too. There's been a lot of different things that we've been a part of.
Okay, that's very cool. That's very cool. All right, let's talk about the fun stuff, the challenges, right? Walk us through. We're not going to name names, but I'm sure that things were very different 51 years ago than they are today. We're not going to get into that because that's a little bit too heavy and too big. But what are some of the big challenges that you guys have faced over the years that maybe your grandfather and your dad's faced when they first started, or maybe in recent years as you've been more involved? What are some big challenges that you guys had that you overcame, and whether that's the market challenges, the pandemic, passing on from one generation to another, and of course a big one is just increased competition. There are a lot of challenges that we face, and I've talked about this on a previous podcast with other guests. It's like we always hope that over time certain challenges will just disappear. They just tend to ebb and flow. Like what a challenge is today will probably rear its ugly head again in 2 or 3 years. It just never stops.
Right.
We never really get comfortable, right? But we'd love to hear the story. There's a lot of good stories to share, but give us some stories of some realities that you guys have faced, that you've overcome, that have actually made you better, stronger, and positioned you well for future success.
Yeah. Everything's a learning experience, right? They're like, you're absolutely right. Like things ebb and flow over time. And, the biggest challenge in over 50 years is just how like the market changes, and whether that's like the retail landscape or the industry in general, or even just like the demographics of like the area that we're in. Like that stuff is going to like constantly evolve and change. And that has always been one of the biggest challenges. In the like mid 90s, that area of town, like right around Speedway, was it was predominantly like older retired white folks. They had money, they were looking at like trying to take care of their health, that kind of thing. So as people like either passed away, moved on, the demographics of the area changed, and now it's the income levels are a lot less, and there's a significant amount of different like races and ethnicities around the area. They've been dubbed the international marketplace, and I don't remember exactly what the stats are, but there's some 120 different cultures, and like all represented within like a 3 or 4 square mile radius. Like and we're right in the middle of all that kind of stuff. So, but that being said, like while also being a challenge, because you got to like adapt to like, how different like people, different cultures like want to be served, or what they're willing to support. It's also like really, really amazing because we get to meet all sorts of different people. I'd invite anybody to come hang out in the store for a couple hours and just like observe the interactions with people. And it's like,
Georgetown Market's a good place to do people watching.
It really, really is. There's so many different people, and like everybody's under like one common goal, and that's to like be able to take care of themselves and to take care of each other. So that's definitely like a bigger problem. One of the biggest problems I've faced is more or less just how like the industry evolves. That same time, like mid 90s when we built the store, but my dad said that one of the biggest reasons that he knew that he needed to expand and get bigger was that like he knew that like Wild Oats would come in. At the time there was no corporate stores, and Wild Oats eventually like bought up by Whole Foods, but And they did. I think they opened in like 1999, and you get like the Trader Joe's, and now there's, a dozen different like health food supermarket chains that are like all around town.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the competition is one I really want to touch on, just because it could be very difficult. Another person comes in, another person, another store comes in. How, with the increased competition around, and you guys you're all different. I mean, you're the same, but you're different. What do you think has allowed, despite the economic shifts, despite the changes in the industry, and particularly with competition, how has, I don't know if this is a factor, just your opinion, but how has Georgetown Market endured and been able to take on not just the typical challenges that businesses face, but like that increased competition? How have you guys continued to sustain and grow and be relevant in your market despite all of that? What do you think has made the difference?
That's probably one of the easiest questions that.
Oh, good, good. I was hoping to find a good one in there.
because we take care of people. We have customer service. There always is a market for that, and that'll never change. No matter where you are, no matter what the economic environment is. There is always going to be a market for customer service.
So, and a lot of people claim they have good customer service, but at Georgetown Market, what's really cool is you guys are committed to consistency, right? So when your customers come in, there's whatever expectation they have about product, about how they're going to be treated, what their overall experience is going to be. It's been pretty consistent over the years. And I guess, is that what you mean by customer service as well?
Yeah.
Just the consistent experience from one day to another?
Yeah. I think the traditional expectation of customer service is, and you can think about it from your own like shopping experiences. You walk into a grocery store, a health food store or something like that. You want to see like, bright colors, bright lights. You want to see the shelves well stocked, and you want the prices to be low, and you want it to look clean, and you want to have like you don't want the wheel on your shopping cart to be spinning around. You know what I mean? Like that's what the customer experience is. And you get to the registers, you check out, and ultimately you look at your receipt, and it's a low enough price, and somebody goes on and they're going to leave a Google review. Love that place. Like, so clean and it's cheap. That's like a lot of what customer services appears to be, but we're different. You walk in, and I mean, I would challenge anybody to like make a full lap around the store, spend 10 or 15 minutes, and not run into like 5 or 6 people at least that you can interact with, that you can talk to, that you can ask questions with, and that's the different kind of a customer experience. Like, if you come in, you may not know what you're looking for. You might feel overwhelmed. You might feel intimidated, or it might just like feel like it's at home in a lot of ways. You've been to a bunch of different other places. But that experience for our customer is going to be one that's based around like a personal interaction. We don't have like self-checkouts. Don't know. I couldn't see myself ever like wanting to do something.
I can't imagine you guys ever doing that either.
Right. I mean, but people want that. Not everybody does. Some people, they want to do their shopping online. They want to order it and have somebody deliver it to their door. And the only thing they care about is, whether that package of organic strawberries is like $3 or like $4.50, and they might not buy it from that place, and that's not what we have. That's not what we provide.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it is kind of nice to walk in and see people at the front. It's interesting. You're claiming this. A lot of people claim this, but if you look at the surveys you've done over the years with customers, you look at your Google reviews, you look at feedback one-on-ones you've had. I mean, what you're claiming to be true is true. I mean, this is what your customers see. This is what they experience. This is what they believe. And anytime they're asked, that is one of the big reasons why they continue to come back. So that's really cool. So again, a lot of people say that they have good customer service, but not everybody really lives it out. And so I think it's great you guys do that.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Okay, great. All right. How does I want to ask you about opportunities? We talked about some changes over the years, and this is kind of a big question. How does Georgetown Market identify and capitalize on opportunities for growth and innovation? How do you guys tackle? How do you guys find opportunities for growth? How do you guys tackle that and make that happen?
I think in a few different ways. One of the biggest ways for growth is to just stay up on industry trends. I mean, CBD oil, like from several years ago, like that was a huge thing.
That was a big deal at that time. Yeah,
and I mean that was all my dad in a lot of ways.
And you guys were kind of on the front line of that.
We were on the front line of it. Like he had heard about it, read about it, was knowledgeable about it before it ever blew up. So like we already had product. So when it actually happened, he already knew about it. He already knew what to say. He already knew some of the benefits and stuff like that. So when it blew up, like we were already there.
So it's almost like you guys were locally, or at least regionally, you guys were almost like a trendsetter at that time. It's pretty neat.
We took a lot of risks by kind of like stepping out and being on the forefront, especially trying to bridge that gap between like it's not marijuana, like there's health benefits to it. And that was risky in a lot of ways, and it paid off.
Yeah, and at that time, I remember there were still a lot of question marks. Like that was a really bold move because you couldn't just identify as an opportunity. You couldn't just say, this is what I want to do. There were still legal ramifications and like what you could and couldn't do. It was a really interesting time, and your dad was able to kind of pull that off at a time where it was definitely risky, but it was a pretty powerful move.
Right. It was. And the lesson being is that like it was an opportunity, and that like if you're educated and you're knowledgeable and when the industry trends come around, like you're already there. You're not just trying to like bring things in and like sell it in mass. You're already there. You can answer questions. You can alleviate people's fears. That's for sure like an opportunity. The other opportunity is like as we get further and further into like technology and less face-to-face is to maintain face-to-face contact. How much shopping can you do without ever like encountering another human being? It's scary in a lot of ways. So while that could also be a threat, like for us, we can turn it into an opportunity.
Have you guys seen? I'm glad you brought up technology. I'm 50. I'll be 54 in May, and I always tell people I have one foot in the past and one foot in the future. I understand the value. I mean, really, technology has been around for a very long time. Innovation, these kind of words. It just seems like it's just moving so fast. So it looks like it's like, whoa, technology, but it's always been there. How do I'm trying to think how to ask this question. I get the value in technology, but I probably will always cherish the face-to-face. Do your customers appreciate the advancements you guys have made in technology? I mean, do a lot of your customers buy online from you guys, or do most of them come in store? Have you gotten feedback from your customers how they feel about face-to-face? I mean, and a lot of your customers are young, right? We were talking about the demographic. Do your customers still like the old school of coming in and talking to people and having face-to-face relationships?
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, we're a business. We're in business to make money. That is one of the goals that we're going to do. So people vote with their dollars, right?
They do.
We've tried to launch online and have pretty much like abandoned the whole thing because people just our customers didn't want that. And like, I mean, we just did the survey with you guys, and I forget what it was, but it was a large proportion of people just generally weren't interested in buying online. And I get it also because, I mean, buying online takes away every advantage that we have. I mean, if you can go to Instacart and purchase from us, but how is that any different from any other company on Instacart?
It's true. It's
the same products, and it might be a higher price. So what reason would you have to buy it from us? So people vote with their dollars, and they're not, they want to come in.
Interesting. That's really cool. Yeah. I do think some technologies are good, but it's like anything. You don't want to push it or do it just because everyone else is doing it. I do believe listening to your customers is extremely important. If your customers don't want it, what's the point of shoving it forcing it in on them when they're not even going to use it anyway. So you talk about making a profit and being successful. Why invest in things that don't make sense? I mean, your customers do tell you a lot. Mm-hmm. Has that been the case at Georgetown Market over the years? I mean, we talk. Surveys were probably very different back 51 years ago. But have you guys always, for lack of a better phrase, listened to the voice of the customer? Have you guys always paid attention to your customers, listened to them, gotten feedback from them? Is that something that's been in practice for a long time?
For sure, absolutely. And I wish I had some specific examples, but I know that like in a lot of ways, the innovations that I was talking about, like being on the forefront of, a lot of times that is coming from our customers. They'll come in, they'll ask questions, and be like, "Hey, I was reading about this thing. What do you know about it?" And we get intrigued by that. And we're like, I don't know anything about it. I better go start doing some research into it. And we're like, you know what, that like really sounds like something that could be helpful or legitimate, and like bringing it in. So, like in that sense, like, yeah, we've always listened to our customers. And I mean, what successful business hasn't?
Yeah, that's very true.
Unless you're prepared to make such a pivot that you want to.
There are a lot of
get a whole new customer base.
Yeah, but there are companies that just their initiatives are based on things they read or what happens in the boardroom or what managers believe. But not everybody does listen to their customer. There's a vulnerability with that, right? You have to put your ego aside and say, I don't have all the answers. I can't see everything. So I never knew that. So you actually have customers that come in that are so passionate about it. They're like, hey, Georgetown Market, are you guys aware of this? This is something you guys could be selling or talking about. That happens from time to time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you said like you talk about like a boardroom and everything, and there's absolutely that separation. And I guess that's one of the advantages that we have is, every once in a while somebody will ask to talk to a manager, and I'll go down there and they'll be like, I want your corporate number. And I'll be like, okay, well, you're talking to them. And my office is right there. So there's corporate, and you're talking to the, CEO, president. Doesn't get any higher than this. And so for that reason alone, like, how can we not listen to our customers? I am accountable to them with that much ease. So there's I mean, it's part of morals. There's not like a temptation to act any different or whatever. But it's one of the advantages of being a small business is like you are there. You have to be accountable to your customers. You can't put in lines of defense and not have access to them or have to like answer those kind of things. If you serve bad product or you make somebody sick or, those kind of things, you have to look somebody in the face and be like, I made a mistake or, we need to like figure that out. You can't like bury that in any way. And not that happens all the time, but that is what like keeps me and us accountable in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Accountability is good. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to get too comfortable or get a big head. That's for sure. Can't afford that. I love that about corporate. I never would have thought someone would come in and say, I want to talk to someone in corporate. Like, this is it. You're in it.
Yeah, right. You got it.
That's hysterical. Then you have to explain to them, this is our only location, and everything happens here. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Turns out an email address and phone number is worthless because, well, you've got it in person.
That's awesome. Actually, that makes me think, has Georgetown Market, everyone defines growth differently. Some people define growth by, look how much money I've made, look how many employees I have, look how many locations I have. Obviously, you guys have a pride in being in business 51 years, but has Georgetown Market ever explored expanding into other locations? I'm just curious, other locations ever been considered?
Yeah, absolutely. Like several different times and just never really pulled the trigger.
Okay. Was it, if you don't mind my asking, what were some of the challenges with doing it? It's not always easy to do.
I guess
some people who do it probably shouldn't do it. Some people are a little bit over expansive, right? Sure. But what were some of the roadblocks that you guys came into?
Well, I can speak for me personally. I've looked into other opportunities and potentials for expanding and everything, and I'm very conservative in that I want to feel like comfortable being able to like move forward with something. So it makes me like I'm a very steady very steady person.
Okay.
I like my routines and things like that. So The idea of like an expansion like that like is intimidating, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't feel comfortable with it. And obviously there's risk involved, but that's my own experience. And I know my dad at one point was looking at expanding, and I don't know exactly like what stopped it up.
Okay.
We've done like partnerships with other people to kind of, you know, get involved in different areas and in different ways as well, but still one store.
And for you guys, just knowing your history and your culture and just the way you see it, expansion wouldn't even necessarily be for the sake of expansion, right? It wouldn't necessarily be just to have another store and have another store. It would be to be able to share your passion and what Georgetown Market is all about in another location, right? It would just be, as they say, spreading the love. That would be more the case than just, look at us, we have 3 stores, we have 4 stores. I can't imagine your dad or your grandfather or you just going, one more store. So it probably maybe just didn't make sense for you guys based on how you guys operate your business.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you balance that? You have high-risk people, low-risk people. So you say you're conservative. So what... hopefully a lot of our listeners are family business owners. So how do you balance that? Obviously, you don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to be stuck. So how does someone who's conservative, maybe low risk, how do you make decisions that maybe do require getting uncomfortable and taking some risk? How do you balance that?
Oh, you can't avoid it in life. I mean,
you just got married recently. I mean, that's a big.
You know what? That was not a risk at all.
Okay.
That's pure enjoyment.
Oh, all right. Okay. Good. Good answer, by the way.
Right.
Just in case.
How do you balance that? I guess the best answer that I would have is, as yourself, as a small business owner, it's more than a business. Like it's about a lifestyle. You don't do it unless you like have an interest in doing it. The challenges of being a business owner, it can be long hours. It can, when times are tough, you're the first one that doesn't get paid. So you don't do it because it's just about the money. I don't do it because I'm looking for the recognition, so like, you're right. Like, I have 3 stores, like, look what kind of person that makes me. Like, that's not motivating to me. What's motivating to me is like, does it make me feel good? Are we still helping people? If we expand, like, can we still help people? That's one of the biggest questions. I think people get away from that. So the other part of the balance is like being able to maintain like a healthy home life. I mean, like you said, I just got married. My kids are still in the house, but kind of, they're on the waning years. I've got a stepdaughter who's going to be 12 here pretty soon. And, I have hobbies for myself, and the balance is like, does everything ultimately make me happy? Obviously I need to like pay the bills, and I want to be able to take a vacation or have a retirement or help out the kids or do that kind of stuff. So that's where the balance is. So for you, it's like, so it sounds like, which is a real credit to you, is it seems like you found balance, you found purpose. You know what makes you happy. You know how important it is to have something other than just work. A lot of people just, expansion or no expansion, a lot of people just spend so much time on the business and they don't have time for other things. So I think that's really commendable that you've identified, like, you're not a person of power. You don't care about power. You don't care about wealth and all that kind of stuff. It's really, you really are passionate about what Georgetown Market stands for, and continuing to pass along that message and serve the people that love what you guys do. And that's what gets you up every day. And like you said, then you have the balance of family. And I it's interesting. Every podcast I have with another business owner, you can't avoid talking about that work-life balance. In fact, when I had Jeff Boone on here from Cowporks Working Western, we did a whole podcast just on work-life balance and how important that is and how hard it could be. It could take years to figure that out. And I even know now, we've been in business 16 years and I'm still trying really, I got to like force myself to shut down in the evenings and weekends because it's so easy to do. It's like, it's just a few hours here, just a few hours there. And it can get exhausting. And then you go, holy crap, I don't have time for anything else. And like I said, I commend you for having a focus on having that balance, because it's really easy just to throw yourself into the business, growth. And
it's not a good way to live, I don't think.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
That's good. That's good. Okay. All right. Well, I forewarned you that we have a dad joke segment.
Yes.
So we're going to do the dad joke segment, and then I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to ask you one final question, and it's probably my toughest question. So do the best you can with it. But so for those of you that have listened to a previous podcast, have been following along this whole time, I do this dad joke segment, and what kind of inspired this is I'm known for plays on words and puns, and I've been doing it for a lot. Remember how your dad was way ahead of the curve on the CBD oil and all that stuff? Mm-hmm. I've been doing dad jokes well before it was cool. I mean, well before it's taken. Now you go everywhere. I mean, there's dad jokes. I'm like,
yeah. You must have quite the extensive database.
Oh, nice.
I can do this.
Nice.
Too.
Oh, good job. Well, okay, I'm going to pause right. Okay, before we do that, tell us a little bit. It would only be fitting before I tell the dad joke. Tell us a little bit about your love for dad jokes too, because
it's you were telling me about this like part of the segment, and just allow you some time and give you the opportunity. I'm like, oh, it's totally fine. I actually like have a dad joke calendar like in the office.
That's wild. Do you have one like every day?
Yeah, it's got a joke every day. I mean, most of them are awful, and I mean, there's nothing worse than an awful dad joke. But a good, clever dad joke is it just.
That's awesome.
It's
I'm always finding and looking for, with technology, technology can find what you like and don't like. And I've noticed that my Facebook feed and my YouTube feed, I keep getting more and more dad joke pages. And I'm like, oh, there's another one and there's another one. And I can't help myself.
Yeah, the algorithms know you.
Oh man, the algorithms do know you, don't they? So I keep, and then when I go through my stories, I'm like, there's another one and there's another one. So I'm happy to say that dad joke to provide dad joke sites have infiltrated my feeds, and I just can't get enough of it. I love it. So okay, this one's simple and basic, but I still love it. Not every dad joke I tell is necessarily like I wonder what that. I mean, sometimes they're pretty easy. So I always tell my guests, if you know the answer, and I know you do on this one, don't say it. So I'll share I'll ask the question. You guys ponder, and then go to our Facebook page, and the answer to the dad joke will be there. So, okay. How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? So, ponder that for a little bit.
It's a tough one.
And then go to our Facebook page, and there will be the answer. It's cute. Probably heard this one for the first time back when I was maybe in third or fourth grade, but it's a classic. Mm-hmm. It's a classic. So
it's a classic.
It's like I want to tell the answer. I know you want to tell the answer, but we're not going to do that. We're gonna leave it as a mystery for our viewers and listeners. So thanks for letting me share that. Okay.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So. What I should have done, if I'd known that about you, about the dad jokes, I would have had you. Do you have any off the top of your head?
If I had one off the top of my head, I would love to tell it. At least I don't have a clean one.
Yes.
So.
Oh. Yes. Okay. Okay. So final question. We talked a lot about the past and the present. Got a question here about the future. So as Georgetown Market looks to the future, how does the company plan to sustain and build upon its legacy in the years to come? So again, you said it. You said things haven't really changed much over the years, but as you are looking ahead, what are plans that you have to continue the heritage and the legacy and the history of your company in the years coming forward?
It's probably one of the harder questions.
Yes,
because the future is hard to predict.
True.
When it comes to legacy, I'm early on in my ownership of the business, and so I'm still kind of putting my stamp on what I see the business as and where it's going. So, into the future, like it would be like building my own legacy. How that's accomplished, how do we stay true to our roots? Because that's not going to change. I'm not willing. I would rather like shut down the business than sacrifice the foundational principles
and the heart and soul of who you are. Yeah.
Right. It's just not something that that I'd be willing to do. And so like I guess the biggest challenge is like how do we keep that that customer centric focus, the knowledge, the passion, the caring, in an ever evolving world, as technology becomes more and more a part of like daily life.
Yeah.
And that separation like happens between those kind of things. Like, how do we continue to grow, continue to be able to like make money, operate the business, while staying true to those kind of things.
Not compromising those. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the challenge of it. So how do we do it? I guess you don't waver from it. Every decision that we make, the path that we do take down the road is going to be like, it has to be around that. Trying to be something that we're not going to be a recipe for success.
It's true. It's really true. You mentioned about putting your stamp, and again, I know you're not a person of ego and pride and things like that, but obviously you have a lot of respect for what your grandfather or dad built. Your dad's done a lot of wonderful things over the years. He has his own legacy in his own right? How important? So do you feel that you'll be able to make your mark without making too many changes, or do you think, again, I'm putting principles and values and all that stuff aside, do you see a lot of major changes coming up in the years to come with Georgetown Market, or you think it's just continue to do better at what you already do?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, like, I would like to sit here and just say, like, you just keep doing what you do, and you find ways of doing it better, and but I'm not 100% sure of like how sustainable that is in a lot of ways. So like, I guess I would look at like major changes as in, do we change the business model of some sort? Like, do we move locations again?
Wow.
I mean, all that stuff is obviously like in the cards. You don't know what the future's going to hold. You don't know what the economic side of things is going to kind of point towards and everything. But I mean, again, the one thing that's not going to change is just like taking care of people. Yeah. Customers and employees.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I wanted to share with everybody where they can learn more about Georgetown Market. You plugged it and I plugged it earlier, georgetownmarket.com. On georgetownmarket.com, you can order products online, though. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Andrew. Sorry.
It's all on video.
It's all on video. Let it go. It's just, it's water under the table.
That's exactly right.
Okay. I knew that was going to happen. Oh, my goodness. So, did you get wet?
Actually, no.
Oh, good. Then it's no big deal. Okay. Water under the table. So, even though it's not a big part of your business, you can order products online. Okay. But you guys have that blog and podcast if you want to get educated and informed and learn more about health and wellness. And you also have those classes and events that you can learn about. And then opportunities to be a part of the enduring business called Georgetown Market, right? You guys always have, for the most part, anytime I visit the site, you guys always have some kind of career opportunity, right? Some position open.
Yeah. I mean, we were in a state of constant hiring.
Yeah. Wonderful. And of course, one of the things we didn't talk about is stop in there to enjoy the juice bar and eatery. So real quickly, just tell us a little bit about that. So for those of you that are looking at this that are in the Indianapolis market, take a moment just to share a little bit about your juice bar and eatery, what that experience is like.
That's a very long story. Do we have a time for another podcast?
Oh my goodness.
No, the juice bar started. My dad and I have talked about this several times. We're trying to figure out like when they first started making juices, and it was in the 1980s at some point. Started just making carrot juice. Had a juicer, made carrot juice, offered it. So I'm pretty confidently can say that like definitely like Indiana's probably oldest like juice bar.
Really?
I don't know how far that would spread and everything, but we've been juicing since the 1980s, and I guess it's just one of those things that we were on top of before it was cool.
You guys are just trendsetters over there at Georgetown Market, aren't you?
Yes.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And you guys, what year was it you guys actually upgraded and renovated that? eatery?
That was the biggest. That was one of the biggest changes when we built the current location that we're in 1997. Before we had what they called the health bar. I think there were like 3 or 4 sandwiches. They do like a daily special. It'd be some sort of like hot food or something like that. And very limited juices. So part of that expansion was to do a more comprehensive juice menu. We added the smoothies and things like that.
Oh yeah, the smoothies are great. You got a lot of different smoothies, very healthy.
Something that people will very much know us for.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of people that come in just to eat. They come in, that's where they go for their lunch. Nearby people come in there, eat their lunch and go. That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. All right, good. Okay, well, I did want to give you, is there anything about Georgetown Market? I asked you a lot of questions. I put you on the spot a couple of times. Anything about Georgetown Market, your legacy, the business in general, your values, the future, anything about Georgetown Market that I didn't ask you about that you'd like to share?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we definitely covered everything. I think we've gotten to the nitty gritty on those kind of subjects. Okay. I mean, I would just encourage everybody, if you're listening to the podcast just for for the point of it, but if you're a potential shopper or a current customer or whatever, like stop in and say hi. Come see what it is. I think that we can all learn from all small businesses and just like how it all works. And I'd love to be a part of that as well.
Yeah, and we'll be sharing this. Obviously, this will be for our audience, but obviously you'll have an opportunity to share this one however you want to share it. And I really do hope that people, Georgetown Market customers, who come regularly or haven't come for a while, will hear this and hear the great story about the history and everything. That'll motivate them to come back in. One of the things we did learn today, though, that I didn't have on my agenda here is keep your glass of water farther away from yourself so you don't knock it over.
Right.
That's a lesson learned right there. That's one of those things where you're like, I can't believe I did that, but you got to just...
we're supposed to learn that as kids, but...
I know. Well, remember before we started, I told you I tend to use my hands a lot and I move a lot. I should have known better not to have this anywhere within this range right here. So going forward, I'm going to leave this baby over here, and I'm just going to go like this.
There you go.
And like that. So,
but also mistakes happen, and no harm, no foul. There's no sense crying over spilled water.
It's probably the first mistake I've ever made doing one of my podcasts. I'm sure every other moment's been perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, no doubt. Andrew, thank you so much for being on this podcast. Thank you for sharing the history and the story and giving us a glimpse into what Georgetown Market's all about. I love hearing about how it's changed, but it really hasn't changed. And I think that's the heart and soul of a family business. If you read up on family businesses, one of the things that employees don't like is too much change. It scares them because they're a part of that family business for a reason. This is it. So I just really loved your view on, I'm open to change, I'm open to growth, I'm open to doing things, as long as it doesn't compromise what we believe, who we are, how we've been doing business for many years, and just honoring what your dad has had in place and what your grandfather's had in place. And I think your greatest legacy would be, yes, it would be great if your daughter or son, comes on board. That would be a really cool way, and we often think of legacy that way. But I think what would be really great is if 20 years from now, your customers who have been going there for a long time will say, Georgetown Market's still great. I continue to come back for these reasons, and it hasn't really changed that much. And I think from what I've heard from you today at the heart and soul is like, I have to be in business, but the thing I love the most about what you shared is just throughout all these different answers, Georgetown Market is who we are, we believe what we believe, we do what we do, and that's never going to be compromised. And I think that is going to be your legacy, because a lot of people come on board and they feel like, I got to make my mark, I got to change everything, I got to prove myself that I'm able to take something and make it into something more. And I think your attitude and your perspective is just great, and I hope that that's something that inspires and really hits home with other family business owners who are listening today.
For sure.
So I really appreciate that. I really respect you a lot for that. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me on too.
Again, thanks.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Yeah, and then hopefully next time you said I didn't get you wet, so that's good. So
right.
So that's wonderful.
Got my phone wet.
Yeah. So let's get back to business. We got work to do, right?
Exactly. Right.
So wonderful. So thanks for being here, and we'll have you on again sometime down the road, and I'm sure we can find some other things that are exciting to talk about.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep. Thanks, John.